Jennifer and her friends Mark, Candy, and Tom had been hearing strange stories about a remote village tucked away in the woods. It was said that the village was home to an abandoned factory, one that had been closed for decades but still held an eerie presence. Locals whispered about strange noises coming from the factory at night. There were also tales of flickering lights and mysterious disappearances around the factory, but none of the group believed in ghost stories. Jennifer, ever the skeptic, was determined to investigate the truth behind these rumors. As they arrived at the village, the air felt different, heavy, almost suffocating. The forest surrounding the area was dense, and a mist hung in the air, giving everything a ghostly appearance. "This place feels wrong," Mark muttered as they drove past the overgrown roads leading to the factory. But Jennifer waved off his concerns, eager to explore. The factory was an imposing structure, a giant building of rusted metal. Its crumbling bricks and dark shattered windows added to the eerie atmosphere. But it was more than just its appearance that struck the group. There was a palpable sense of unease in the air. Something wasn't right. As they approached the entrance, the door creaked open on its own, and a cold breeze hit them, causing shivers to run down their spines. Inside, the factory was eerily silent. The once bustling machines were now just silent relics of the past. Dust covered everything, but there was something about the stillness that felt unnatural. "Are we sure we should be here?" Candy asked, her voice shaking. But Jennifer, ever fearless, pressed on, determined to find out what was behind all the mystery. The group walked through the desolate halls, their footsteps echoing in the emptiness. Suddenly, Mark stopped in his tracks, staring at a faded sign on the wall. It says, "No one leaves once they enter." "What does that mean?" he asked, his voice low and uncertain. Before anyone could respond, the door behind them slammed shut with a loud bang, sending them into a panic. They tried to open it, but it was stuck. "This isn't funny," Tom said, his usual bravado slipping. Jennifer, however, remained calm. She pulled out her phone to call for help, but there was no signal. They were completely cut off from the outside world. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed through the factory, like a distant scream. The group froze, their hearts racing. "Did you hear that?" Candy whispered, her voice barely audible. Mark looked around, his eyes wide with fear. "It came from down the hall," he said. He pointed toward a dark corridor at the far end of the factory. Against their better judgment, they moved toward the source of the sound. The corridor seemed endless, the shadows in the corners shifting with the flickering lights above them. As they walked, Jennifer noticed something strange, a series of handwritten notes on the floor. She bent down to read one, and the words sent a chill down her spine. "The factory feeds on your fears. It will never let you leave." "What does that mean?" Tom asked, his voice rising in panic. But before Jennifer could respond, the air grew colder and the lights flickered once more. The group stumbled forward, the oppressive darkness closing in around them. As they reached the end of the corridor, they found a large, rusted door. The noise they had heard earlier seemed to be coming from behind it. With trembling hands, Jennifer pushed the door open. Inside, they found an old control room. The machinery was ancient, but it still hummed with a strange energy. On the walls, there were photos of the factory's workers, men and women who looked eerily lifeless, their eyes hollow and staring straight into the camera. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from behind them. They turned around, but there was nothing there. A low growl vibrated through the walls, and Jennifer's heart skipped a beat. "We need to get out of here. Now," she said, her voice sharp with fear. But as they turned to leave, the door slammed shut once again. The factory seemed alive, the walls pulsating as if it was breathing. Mark, now visibly terrified, pushed against the door, but it wouldn't budge. "We're trapped," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The factory's machinery began to whir to life, gears and levers moving as though operated by an unseen hand. The lights flickered once again, casting long, eerie shadows across the walls. Then, through the crackling static of an old speaker, a voice echoed cold and emotionless. "You shouldn't have come." Panic set in as they realized they were not alone in the factory. Figures began to appear in the corners of the room. Their faces were distorted and their bodies twisted unnaturally. The spirits of the factory's past workers, trapped in this forsaken place, began to close in on them. Jennifer, heart pounding, turned to her friends. "We need to get to the exit. It's the only way out," she urged, her voice firm despite the fear in her chest. But as they ran toward the door, the temperature dropped drastically. Their breath came out in clouds of mist, and the shadows seemed to follow them, moving in and out of sight. Just as they reached the door, a loud, shrill scream filled the air. Candy turned around, but there was nothing there. Then, without warning, the factory's walls seemed to close in, and the floor beneath their feet cracked open. The group fell into darkness. Jennifer awoke to find herself alone in a pitch-black room. The factory was silent once more. She struggled to get up, her head spinning. Then she heard it, the faint sound of breathing coming from the shadows. Slowly she turned, and there it was. A shadowy figure, its eyes glowing in the dark, watching her every move. "You're not leaving," it whispered, and Jennifer's blood ran cold. The truth was clear now. The factory had claimed them. There was no escape. The spirits of the factory's past were hungry, and they always got what they wanted. And as Jennifer's scream echoed through the factory, it was swallowed by the darkness, just like the others who had come before.